Welcome back to Urban Traditionalists. It is winter, end of February exactly, if you will. And I'm hoping this year to actually do more live type videos, not meaning live stream, but actually film as we go throughout this garden year process and kind of just bring you in on the process in general, sort of our seed starting, our planting, and all the way through. We're changing our garden a lot this year. Last year we did row gardens with kind of a walking path in between, and this year the whole square footage is just going to be all garden, and we'll kind of like block out different aspects of the garden. We think we'll be able to plant way more that way. And I'm also changing what I'm planting. Last year we planted a little bit of everything because it was our first year at this location and we weren't really sure what was going to work and what wouldn't. So we just planted everything, a little bit of everything. There were some things that we really liked. There were some things that we didn't eat at all. There was other stuff that we just fed to the chickens. So there's stuff we're going to be doing again and lots of stuff we're not going to be doing. Essentially what I'm going to be focusing on this year is probably less variety, but larger harvests. I really want to do a lot of onions. I'd really like to try and get a decent onion harvest. We've never really pulled off like the onion bulbs before, so that's going to be a major priority this year, is trying to get good onion harvest. Tomatoes, I have a lot of variety of tomatoes I want to plant, a lot of variety of peppers. Those are kind of going to be my three major focuses. I'm only going to do like one squash plant. I'm actually going to try watermelon this year, and then we'll do the typical beans and greens and all of that as well. But we're nixing like cabbage. I maybe want one zucchini plant. We were overrun with zucchini last year. Maybe one cucumber plant. We still have tons of pickles, so fresh cucumber, that sort of thing. So the garden evolves every year as we go about. Now, today is my first official day of seed starting. It is, like I said, late February, so we're going to be seed starting a couple things. But before I get into that specifically, I wanted to talk about seed storage. Everyone has their method that works for them. And there's a lot of methods out there, so I find it helpful kind of gleaning from lots of different people and then coming up with something that works for me, so you do the same. What I found, which has worked wonders for me, is this carry case. Now, this is not designed for seeds. This is actually designed for photographs. So there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 cases in here. And this one's, I got the colored one because I like colors, plus it helps me know what's what. And each case is 4 by 6 inches. And what I've done is I have labeled the front of the case with sticker paper that I can write on. And then I have seeds inside the case. Now this one specifically is carrots and beets, and then I have my varieties listed underneath. And then when you open it up, obviously that's what you're going to get inside. I also have turnips in here, but they fit the seed packets perfectly. And then once my seed packets are open, I like to store them in these really awkward size Ziploc snack bags. How many of you have these and like you never use them because they're too small for anything? But once you open your seeds, you can see that they actually just fit perfectly in there, and then you can Ziploc it. And actually there's a bunch of turnip seeds that have escaped. So that keeps them all together in the Ziploc. And then the Ziplocs fit in these photo boxes, and then they snap shut, and then they go in my carry case. So that's how I've decided to store my seeds. I have 16 cases in here. Some of them are empty because there's some, spots that I don't need. And then I try to color coordinate them so I kind of know what they are. So the pink is flowers. And then I just pulled out the carrots and beets, which is orange for carrots. If I pull out yellow, I'm going to get corn. So I've tried to organize it that way to make it a bit more helpful for me. This one's actually empty, but the other green right here is going to be herbs, all my herbs right here. So that way everything's kind of organized, ready to go. This one's beans. I found this method so helpful when I was replanting in the summertime when space would be created in the garden and I wanted to go in and plant just a few more things. Or I had a really hard time getting my tomatoes started, so that sort of thing, I would just sort of pull out the case, go into the garden, use the case, bring it back, and then put it back in here. The other thing I like about it is that there is a little bit of room on top to kind of throw, like if you don't have a time to like put all your seeds in, I would just sort of throw them on top and close it, and then I could come back to it later and then sort it properly. So this is how I store my seeds. I love it. I got this one at Michael's craft store actually. You can get them on Amazon. I think they're like $14 to $24 depending on how and when you find them. This one at Michael's was $16 or $20, but I found paying a little more worth it because then I could just go to the store and get it versus waiting on shipping. So that's how I store my seeds. Now I have organized the seeds that I'm planting this year already because it can just get so overwhelming with what gets seed started, what gets direct sowed. So what I've done is I've made just envelopes. This one says February seed start. And then I've taken all the seeds out of my organizer and just put them in here as to what I'm going to be seed starting in February. So this is going to get seed started today. And then my next envelope is March seed starting. And then that I know is ready to go. The April one is very full because this is actually direct sow. So this is April direct sow right into the garden. So when April comes and we're ready to do that, I can just grab this whole thing, get that going. And then I've got an April seed starting and then a May direct sow. So this is just what I've done to make it easy for me to start with. We're going to start with the February folder today. The last thing I'm going to talk about here before we actually get started with the seed starting is a grow light. Now, we experimented with this for the first time last year. I like a grow light, but I think we maybe used it wrong. We put the grow light on right away for like 16 hours a day, and the seeds really responded. Like everything really started germinating well. Things came up really quick. But what I found to be the problem is that stuff grew too quickly, and the plant itself focused on growing its stem versus growing its roots. And really, when you're seed starting, you want to be encouraging that root to go down and to create a good network in the dirt and also obviously sprout up. So what I'm going to focus on this year is I'm not going to use the grow light. Maybe once the plants actually get to be a good little sustainable size, then I think the grow light is helpful to encourage them to get bigger and stronger. But I think as far as seed starting, you need to focus on warm soil for those seeds. So we do have a small kind of office room where I'm going to be putting the seeds, and I'm turned the heat on in that room. We never turn the heat on in that room, and just to create a bit of a warmer environment for the seeds to actually start. And then once things kind of get going, I think I'll use this more for like the pepper plants and the tomato plants once they're a decent little height and they can get strong. But what I found is that things got too high, too quick. Their stalks were really, really weak. They had no root system, and then things just fell over and died, and it was not helpful. And I had probably 60 plants that I was seed starting, and only maybe 4 of them transplanted well. So that was really discouraging. I will not be using a grow light. If you have recommendations or thoughts on grow lights, let me know, because I'm curious to get better at it, but I just found for us the way I did it was not helpful. So I'm going to focus more on warm soil. All right, let's get started with the dirt and the seed starting. Okay, we're going to get started with the seed starting process. So before I get started, I can't believe I've never seen anyone use this thing until recently with the amount of homesteading videos I watched. This is a dirt blocker. I got it at Lee Valley. It was kind of expensive. It was like $65. But I think the use of it is totally worth it. What you do is you essentially shove dirt into there by jamming it into your dirt pile, blocking it in, and then there's these little divots right at the base of the square, and this pushes the dirt out to create 4 uniform blocks of dirt, and the divots allow for you to put the seed in the dirt. How did I not know this existed? I'm happy I found it at the beginning of the season. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be taking our seed trays and just blocking the dirt straight into our seed trays. Pardon the roosters, they're loud. And then what happens is you can just water the bottom of the tray and the dirt will just absorb the water up into the dirt blocks. And then that way you can take your dirt block directly into the garden. So no more like massive amounts of those plastic seed starting pots. I'm just gonna dirt block straight into our trays. A lot of these trays have the plastic dome on them, which will create a small greenhouse effect, and then we'll just go from there. What I've got in the cooler is my dirt. I don't know if you can see that. So in my cooler here, I have a 50-50 ratio of just normal potting soil, which is really cheap. I got a massive bag of it at Costco for $15. And then I did splurge on some really specific seed starting soil. And so it's 50-50 seed starting soil and potting mix. The potting mix did say it was fine for starting seeds and plants and what have you, but soil quality is really, really important. So I'm just doing a 50-50 ratio of cheap and then the nice stuff. We'll see how that sort of gets us off here. So today we're going to be focusing on our February seed starters. We're going to be starting all of our herbs. These are all herbs that I'm going to be starting today. And then we'll be starting our onions. I do have 4 variety of onions as well as celery. Now I have also seen some people do it where they take a larger pot like this and just seed start the whole thing with like celery seed, for instance. And then as the plants get too big, they dump the pot out and separate the seeds, separate the root systems, then plant the plant that way. I might give that a try depending on how many planters I take up with my seed starting. We'll see how far we get. We'll see how far we go. We have a lot of seeds to do today. I'm super excited to use the dirt blocker. Let's get dirty. So just to reiterate, I have 50% potting mix, 50% special seed starting soil, and then I have wet the soil down just so that it will clump and perform how I want it to. I might actually need to wet it down a little bit more. It still feels a little dry because I want it to hold its form in the dirt block. So let's give the dirt blocker a try. My first time using it. As far as I understand it, you just shove it into the dirt. I do have this board here because I thought I would need to use the board to push the dirt down, but I think actually the sides of the cooler are going to work just fine. Okay. There's a dirt blocker full of dirt. Let's see how this turns out. Good and not good. So there's one block of dirt right there, and you can see the divot in the top for your seed. Maybe you can't see that, maybe you can. It is holding together okay. I'm not sure if you saw that one do anywhere. It is holding together okay, but it is crumbling quite a bit. So I think I'm gonna wet the soil down just a little bit more just to give it that extra hold, and then just make sure it's really, really packed in there as well. Round 2 with the dirt blocker. Probably overdoing it, but we'll see here. That looks way better. And it's definitely holding more stable as well. So that will be our seed starting blocks. I am curious as to how many this tray will hold. So let's fill her up. So it looks like we can fit 5 rows of seeds. I did kind of mess up this row when I went to go put in the last row. So if I am mindful, it looks like, I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 20 seeds there. which means I can get 40 and then probably another 2 rows. So we're probably about close to 50 seeds per tray doing it this way, which is awesome. I do hope the integrity of these are pretty good. The other thing I kind of worry about is the root systems kind of tying into each other, but this is all just kind of a bit of an experiment. We'll see how it goes. I am doing onions, which have a pretty shallow root system, so hopefully that won't be a problem. I'm not sure what the herbs will be like, but just to let you know, we have 20 seeds right there, and then we'll do another 20 here. Okay, that's the tray full. It was a little challenging to get sort of the last few in there. I just dirt blocked them into my hand and then lifted them and filled the gaps. But overall, I mean, that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 seeds per tray, which is way better than last year. I think last year we only had like 16 because it was full of pots, not actual seeds, seed blocks. So I have 4 of these bigger trays, which means that's 200 seeds right there, which is pretty incredible. And again, my only concern with doing it this way is having the root systems knot up with each other and then having that sort of compromise the strength of the plant or them being able to be transplanted. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with this process. I'm gonna fill up the next one and then we'll get to planting. I might actually do the planting bit inside because it's getting a bit cold. So we'll do all the dirt out here and then maybe head inside. Okay, we moved things inside because it was getting really blustery and it started snowing. So that was kind of a cue to relocate. So we have 200 seed blocks here, which is amazing. Now, I do know that as the plants get bigger, we are going to have to look at transplanting and that sort of thing. Onions, not so much because they don't take up a ton of space. They're just kind of going to grow their long green stems. So this really is perfect for onions, which is what I want to be focusing on mainly. And then we will plant herbs as well because I want to get a head start on that. So essentially I have 4 varieties of onions here, 3 of which we've tried. And I haven't had the greatest success with onions, so I'm going to plant a lot of them. I really want to try and get bulbs this year. I haven't seed started onions this early before, so I'm hoping that makes a big difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I essentially just have to decide how many varieties I want to grow. So if that's 20, 30, 40, 50, I could technically do 200 onions just here, and we could see what happens. 1 of each seed kind. I think what I'm going to do is 2 trays of onions and then 2 trays of herbs. And I'll just do 3 rows of one variety, 2 of another, 3 of one, 2 of another. Again, this is what makes those little snack packs so handy. Oh, I don't even have enough for 10 in here. I've got 5. So I guess that solves that problem. You can also use tweezers for this, just depending on how patient you are. If I'm out of variety, I do like to keep the pack so I can remember to purchase that going forward. Okay, let's speed things up here. Okay, every seed pot is full and I've put masking tape on the bottom indicating what's in what row so that we can remember. And then I'm just going to take a skewer and cover up the seed holes so that the seeds are actually covered. Okay, that's all the seeds covered. It is a bit nerve-wracking trying something new. You always want to go with your like tried and true methods, but I mean, this is our 4th or 5th year gardening. I think it's our 4th. And the thing is that you have to do things differently every year because that just seems to be how it is. I'm hoping we will discover a tried and true method soon, but for right now, I think this is going to work.
The only thing that I'm kind of concerned about, a little bit of debris in this one. The only thing I'm kind of concerned about is it being a bit of a nightmare when it comes to transplanting, because the dirt blocks have fallen apart or the roots have all intertwined, and so that's sort of my only concern doing things this way. Overall, I really hope it does work out, because to have essentially 100 onions be able to stay in here till transplanting would be huge. That would be such a big space saver. So, also not doing the heat lamp or the light, the grow lamp. I've turned the heat on in this room, and the register is actually directly under the seed blocks here, so I can already feel heat coming up. So I'm hoping this room gets nice and warm, and then these guys can just start germinating and going. These two are herbs. Essentially, we have the rose celery, and then we have dill, sage, thyme, parsley, chives, rosemary, oregano, lettuce leaf basil, sweet basil, and then in this one, it's essentially Walla Wallas, except I had 5 seeds over from another one, and then I've got a 4th one over here out of camera. That's white wing onion and Patterson onion. So overall, I've got 100 onions, and then I've got 9 herbs and 10 rows total. 10 plants total of each herb. So it's 90 herb plants. And then I've got 10 celery plants over here. So we'll see how this goes. Seed starting 2023.